you guys, it's episode 63 of War Stories, and like always, I'm going to get straight to it. But before I do, real fast, let me just say this real quick. So I hope everybody enjoyed their 4th of July yesterday. I hope everybody made it home safe. I hope you guys enjoyed all the fireworks. Can you guys believe that we're already more than halfway through this year already? It's crazy how time flies. It's already almost time for football season. I don't know where the time's going, but it sure is moving. Anyways, I'm going to hit you guys with a quick war story. Technically, this is not even, some of you are going to be like, man, this ain't even a war story, B. It is a war story for me because I almost lost my life. You guys will understand when I tell you, what happened. But, I was going to run this under like a curb talk or something else, but you guys are going to get it as a war story because, like I said, I almost lost my life. So it is what it is. Anyways, let me kind of set the stage for you guys so you guys understand what the hell I'm talking about. So it's going to be a quick one. I'm just going to run this quick one so that I get something out to you guys tonight. Anyways, I'm going to take you guys back to 1988. During this time, I was in a residential drug treatment program in San Francisco. The name of the program was called Walden House, and it's a renowned program. It's very popular out there in the city. It's been around for a long time. For those of you that are dinosaurs and, you follow politics and all that stuff, Dianne Feinstein was very much tied into that program, and they have a lot of clout. They have a lot of clout, a lot of pull with the legal justice system as far as pulling people into the program and, diversion and all that stuff. Anyways, so I went to the program in 1988 when I was a juvenile. Well, let me back up. I'm going to back up a couple more years because it was actually before 88. We're talking around 86. So this is 1986. And again, this is a time when I was a juvenile. I went to the juvenile facility, and, it was a diversion for me. And instead of sending me to the youth authority, they gave me chance after chance to go to these drug programs. I went to Walden House. I went to Delancey Street. I went to Our Family in Napa. I went to about 5 or 6 different ones. And by the time I was 18, they just pretty much just sealed my record and was like, you know what? Get up out of here, man. You ain't going to change. Hopefully you changed as an adult. But they tried everything they could to change me when I was a juvenile. But I kept pushing back. Anyway, so 1986, I get there and I remember, I'm going to take you guys back to when I actually first went to the program because there's a funny story actually that's attached to this. So I was in juvenile hall and, I usually don't talk about this stuff when I was that young, but this is an exception right here. So I was there and I was looking at like a 6 or 7 year wide joint suspension. And I think I had a couple burglaries and I had a couple felonies that I was stacking them up. I had accumulated a few of them. So, they were getting ready to pull the trigger and send me up, but they kept giving me chance after chance. And I remember I had a cool probation officer. I forget the dude's name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But anyways, on this particular day, he comes into the unit in B4 in San Francisco, the juvenile hall over there. And, he gets me and he's like, hey, I'm going to take you to this program today. You're not going to go in today. You're not going to get, whether or not they accept you or not, we'll find out. You're just going to go for the interview part. So he takes me out of the facility, juvenile hall, and takes me outside. We get in his car and we leave. I'm still in my juvenile hall clothes. He doesn't dress me out in my street clothes or nothing like that. He takes me over there because in my juvenile hall clothes, because whether or not they accept me, I'm coming back. I'm coming back and I'm going to stay there for at least another week or however long it takes for that process to go through. Anyway, so we go and, at this time, you guys got to understand, I was young and the streets were deeply ingrained. They were embedded into my DNA at that time. I was running the streets. I couldn't wait to get back out to the streets. Every time I got locked up, I went to jail, went to juvenile hall, wherever I was at, a program, wherever. I could not wait to get back out to the streets. And every time that I would get released or I would run from a program or something, I'd hit the streets running. I get right back into the thick of it. And 16th and Mission at that time, again, you know, I've talked about that area of San Francisco in many of my stories. And that place around that time, in the 80s, 86 to in the 90s to the early 90s, it was like one of the second worst places in Frisco as far as, you know, being in an area that was just drug infested. There's prostitution over there. You know, there's a lot of hand-to-hand drug sales, a lot of gang violence, all that was 16th and Mission at that time. You know, they've cleaned it up over the years. Now it's nothing like it was back then, but that was my spot. Those were my stomping grounds. Every time I would get out or I would run from somewhere, that's exactly where I would head, right there. And, you know, the reason why is because at that time I was struggling with my addiction. So I knew where it was at. I knew it was out there on the streets. So anyways, we go to this program. And by that time I had been to like 3 or 4 programs. So I knew how to walk the walk, talk the talk. I knew how to manipulate my way into the program. I said all the things that I knew they needed me to say or wanted me to say or wanted to hear. And, you know, I represented myself as somebody that really righteously wanted help, which I didn't. You know, for me, these places represented a front door to the streets. That's all it was. I just wanted to get back out and hit the streets again. You know, I've said this before when it comes to kids that, you know, get involved in that lifestyle at a young age. I think the age is around 12 years old. That's the age right there. Once they get exposed to the streets at that age, it's kind of hard to pull them back because, you know, at the age of 12, I was out there before that, but at around the age of 12, there was a lot of people that were trying to pull me back, trying to get me off the streets, trying to, you know, help me with my addiction, trying to help me, you know, find a stable environment rather than to be running around out there in that part of the Mission or in the Tenderloin. They were righteously trying to help me, but I didn't want help. And these were good people that were offering me good opportunities, jobs, you know, a place to stay, you know, means to make money, employment, like I said, you know. So the help was there, but I didn't want it because the streets, it was just in my blood too much. This day that we go to Mardal, his name was Mark Mardal. That was the name of my probation officer. Cool cat, man, cool cat. So anyways, me and Mark, that day he drives me to Walden House. And, you know, we go up in there. And again, I say everything that they want me to say. I talk the talk, walk the walk, do the dance, do all that good stuff. And straight up, they accepted me right there. They were like, yeah, you know, he's a good fit. He's somebody that we think that we can help. He's somebody that wants help, you know, and I didn't. And those programs, they're good for you if you really want help. If you're at that point where you're ready and you're really, you know, you're receptive to that, to rehabilitation, those drug programs, those rehabs, they're good places, at least the ones that I've been to. But I know for a fact I wasn't ready. When every time they sent me to those places, you know, I couldn't wait to leave. I had it already in my mind. As soon as I got there, I'm gone. It's the first opportunity I get, I'm up out of here. So anyways, you know, we went into that interview. I got accepted, and the plan was to take me back to juvenile hall, and I would come back in probably like a week or something like that. So, you know, we get back into Mark's car, and since we're out there in the field, he was like, you know what? I'm going to take you out to lunch right now. Let's get something to eat. I know it's been a minute since you had some good food, eating juvenile hall food. The only thing that I got to eat in there that was good was the snacks that they used to let moms and pops bring when they come up to visit. I don't know about you guys, your juvenile halls, but they used to let them bring big bags of candy and cookies and chips and all that good stuff. Anyways, so we hit a Jack in the Box at McDonald's or something. We go to lunch, and the whole time that I'm there with this guy, he's talking to me, and I'm listening, and I'm engaged in the conversation, but I'm not even really paying attention. My mind is on the streets. I'm thinking, how do I get away from this guy and just get back out there? Because I don't want to be here right now. And I'm thinking about splitting. I'm thinking about just getting up and walking away. And this guy's talking to me. He's talking to me about the program. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm just responding to him, but I'm telling you, my mind was stuck on the streets. So at some point, you know, we get done eating, we get back in his car, and we start to drive back towards juvenile hall. And the closer we get, you know, the more amped up I'm getting. My adrenaline is going crazy because I'm thinking, man, the streets, I'm gonna, you know, I got to get up out of here. And I know I'm gonna split. It's just a matter of when I'm gonna do it. You know, because a part of me kind of felt bad. This dude was really trying to help me, and it wasn't like he was gonna come running after me. He wasn't that type of dude. He's like, hey, you want to run? Go ahead, man. It's all good. It's your life. But you know, there was that part of me that just didn't want to run because I didn't want to disappoint him like that. So anyways, we get back in his car and we're driving towards juvenile, and we're down by the Tenderloin somewhere, and he pulls up to a stop sign, and I had built up enough courage to do it. And I just opened up the door and I said, Mark, what would you do if I left right now? And he was like, hey, that's on you, man. You know, I'd be disappointed, but if that's what you want to do, there's nothing I could do about it. And I'm like, well, I'm gone, Mark. I'm gonna leave, man. I'm gonna take off. And he's like, no, you're not. Come on, stop playing. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. I shut the door and I took off. And like I said, I went right back down to 16th and Mission. I was probably high like 30, 40 minutes later because, like I said, you know, the streets were just in my blood. And at that time, my addiction was it was really bad at a young age. So anyways, Mark splits. I'm out there, you know, he doesn't make no effort to come after me or nothing. Like he said, you know, if that's what I wanted to do, then he was gonna let me do it. So within 30 minutes, I'd already did my thing. You know, from that point on, I just start running around. I start robbing people, trying to, you know, find ways to make money. That night, you know, by like 1 o'clock that night, I was already in jail. I had ran into a homeboy of mine that had a Leño out there in the city. We call them killers, PCP, Angel Dust, Raw Ones. So I run into a homeboy, one of the Pacheco brothers, and he had a half a Leño, and I was like, bro, I just got out, you know, of juvenile hall, and I haven't hit a Leño in a minute. So he gives it to me. I blaze it up, and within probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I'm locked back up. I think if I remember right, I was beating on somebody's door like an idiot, whacked up out of my mind. And, you know, every time that I used to smoke that stuff and I used to go on these kind of trips like that, when SFPD would find somebody whacked out, you know, beating on somebody's door, walking around like a robot, doing whatever you were doing, what they would do is they'd snatch you up, they take you to San Francisco General, they put you on a gurney, strap you down to the bed, and push you in the corner, pull the sheet, and they would tell you, if you shut up for 45 minutes straight, we'll let you go. You know, there were times when I managed to get myself up from those straps, and I put everything in my pockets, got dressed, and walked out the hospital. There was other times I couldn't get out, and I had to wait. But anyways, on that particular occasion, they ended up running my name, and they found out that I had a warrant. So from San Francisco General, they take me right back to juvenile hall. I bullshit you guys not. I went right back to B4, right back to the same cell with my cellie, and my bed was still there with the sheets. They didn't roll my stuff up. They didn't do none of that. I don't know if they thought I was coming back or what the trip was, but I went right back in the same cell. So, I go in there, I tell my cellie what happened, and he got a good laugh out of it. I'm stressed out because now I'm thinking I blew it. I blew an opportunity to go to a program. Now I got some issues. So that morning, I think it was like a Monday or something, I called Mark Mardoff, my probation officer, and I'm thinking dude's gonna be mad at me. He's gonna tell me something like, "Hey man, I gave you an opportunity and you squandered it or whatever." But he's like, "So you done? You get it out your blood?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "So I'm gonna still take you to the program this week." He's like, "I figured you'd either turn yourself in or you get caught up like you did. I didn't think it happened that fast, but I hope you got it out your blood, man. I'm trying to help you. This is a good program. They're willing to accept you." And again, I was like, yeah, I'm ready to do it. I want to go. So, anyways, I went to the program that week, about a week later. So I'm in the program, and I'm not going to really talk about everything that happened in the program. I stayed there for about 6 months until I'd end up getting terminated for trying to stab the teacher with the pencil. That's another story. That's not even a war story. It's just me being a stupid youngster back in those days and blowing an opportunity to get right. So while I'm in this program, every weekend, because you had the juvenile facility that was co-ed, boys and girls, and obviously it was the house was separate from the adult facility. They were on Haight Street in San Francisco. Those of you that are from the city or that are familiar with that program, it's a good program. Like I said, man, for those of you that are dinosaurs that have been around for a long time and that follow politicians and things like that, Dianne Feinstein is really tied into that program. She's she's somebody that has a lot of clout over there in the city. That program has a lot of, they got a lot of pull in the court system as far as like diversion, pulling people into their program instead of going to prison and things like that. So it's a good program. But anyway, so on the weekends, what they used to do is we used to go on little field trips, swimming pool, Malibu Grand Prix, the beach, places like that. Well, on this particular occasion, this weekend, we went to the beach. And San Francisco Ocean Beach, anybody that's ever been out there, nice beach. It's one of the nicer beaches in Northern California. It's just, it's a cool environment. You got the Cliff House out there, you got the Sunset District, and for those of you that are into seafood and like all that good stuff, you go down there to Pier 39, the wharf and all that. It's a huge tourist attraction out there, but it's just a nice area to go spend the day on a hot day, go swimming, do all that good stuff. So there was about 15 or 20 of us that went to this little outing or field trip, whatever you want to call it. And obviously we were on the beach and we went swimming and we were kicking it out there, and everything was cool. It was a cool day. They brought a little barbecue pit, so we were barbecuing, and it was a cool day. I remember it like it was yesterday. So we went out a couple times into the water, and that water out there is rough. It's rough. You'll see signs out there that will say, the tide at certain times, it's not advised to go swimming because they got a strong undercurrent or undertow, whatever you call it. They got riptides out there, so it's not advisable to go swimming like later in the evening because the water just gets too rough. A lot of people have drowned out there, and I learned how to swim at an early age, and I love to swim. I love to get in the water. I was a water baby. But at the same time, I respect the ocean. I respect Mother Nature, because I know what Mother Nature is capable of doing. And I have a lot of homeboys that had lost their lives over there in Ocean Beach, swimming or, falling off a cliff over there, high over there by the cliff house. There's a few of them. My boy Wizard got stabbed in the parking lot over there. Good homeboy. But anyways, so we had went out in the water a couple times while we were out there, and we only were out there for about 3 or 4 hours before they wanted to start packing everything up and heading back to the program. So it was around 5 o'clock. It was around 5 o'clock, and that's around the time where you want to stop going out there in the water because it starts to get rough. You can just see it. The waves are all choppy, and the water just gets bad out there, even for somebody that really knows how to swim. And I'm a pretty strong swimmer. I could swim out there, and I've been out there when it's rough like that, but still, it's not advisable. When you get in that water and you feel it, you're like, yeah, let me get up out of here. It's nothing to play with. But it was around 5 o'clock, and they wanted to go back out one last time. I remember, there was three other white dudes that were in the program, and these were guys, man, it was crazy. I was like one of the only youngsters that went to these programs that really needed help. I was strung out. These guys were there for like smoking weed, maybe, or they got caught drinking a little bit of beer. These were youngsters that came in there with Metallica, AC/DC shirts on, but they weren't really, these guys were from the suburbs. They weren't really, addicted like that. They were just, their parents had money and they seen, they caught them smoking weed or something like that, dropping a little bit of acid, and they put them in a program. But there were some cool cats. So there's three of them. There was John, Tony, and Wendell. I remember the three that went out there with me. So, they were like, hey, let's go out there one last time, before we have to leave. So we went out, and this was the last time we were going to go into the water. And as soon as I got into, like, up to my stomach, I kind of knew right there that it's a bad idea to go out any further. But these guys, started to push the limit, man. They were like, come on, let's go out a little further, right? So I'm like, I go against my better judgment, and I start to go out a little further with them. And we get out to the point to where it's like up to our chest. I remember it was up to my chest, and I stopped, and I was going to start to head back towards the beach. And we were all out there around the same, we were in the same area at first. And we all felt it at the same time, because I was like, I tried to turn around to go back towards the beach, but it started to pull. It started to pull at me, and I felt the current, like it was really pulling. I turned around and I started to try to, push myself towards the beach, but I couldn't. It just kept pulling me out further. And before you know it, we were at an area where the waves were starting to get rough. And, being out there for about 10 minutes, after around 10 minutes, it spread us all out. I remember John and Tony went way to the left or to the right where we were at. Me and Wendell were stuck in one spot. And I remember getting hit by a wave, a good sized wave. And then when I went to put my feet back on the ground, the ground was gone. So now, I'm in deep water. I'm treading water. And now I go into panic mode a little bit. I'm starting to swim towards the beach, but, I'm not really tripping yet, because I've been out there like that before, where I got stuck in a current like that, and I was able to get up out of it and no problem. But this time was different. The water was rough, and it kept on pulling us out further and further. We got stuck in an area where the waves, right where they just start, it's kind of far out there. By the time, we were in that area right there, the beach, it looked like it was far. The people on the beach, they were small. That's how far out we were. You couldn't see them. You couldn't make out their faces. They were just little small, like ants. You know what I mean? So that's where we were at. But we were in this area where, so like, you're floating in the water, and then all of a sudden the water sinks down. It sinks down, and you can't see the beach, because that's where the water starts to roll, and then a wave just hits you, boom. And then you swim back up to the top, and then another wave hits you again, boom. So you're stuck right there. You're stuck in this cycle where a wave lands on top of you, you swim to the top, another wave lands on top of you, you swim to the top, and you can't get out. You're stuck right there. That is a riptide. And I remember, after about 10 minutes, that's when I really started to panic. I started to panic because I started to swallow a lot of water. And between waves, I looked over at Wendell, and I remember seeing an expression of fear on his face that was like, I remember him telling me, he was like, I can't get back. And I'm like, I can't either, bro. And I told him, man, just keep trying to swim. Just keep trying to swim towards the beach. So that's what we were doing, but I was doggy paddling. I was doggy paddling and kicking like that, trying to get back. And you're not going to make you're not going to cover no ground like that, especially when you're stuck in that spot. Later on, I would find out what you're supposed to do when you get stuck in a riptide like that is you're supposed to swim parallel with the beach, sideways, because you're stuck in it right there. And you swim parallel so you get yourself up out of it, and then you can swim straight towards the beach. But we were stuck right there. We didn't know that. I didn't know that. So anyways, we're out there, 10, 15, 20 minutes go by. We're stuck. We can't get back. At some point, the people from the program, they call the Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard, I remember I'm out there, and between waves, I remember seeing like their SUV hit the beach, and I could see it was the Coast Guard. And I'm like, just thinking to myself, shit, man, this is starting to turn serious. And, I can barely see them, but I can see that they were trying to swim towards us from the beach, a couple Coast Guards. And then at another point, a helicopter ended up flying in the area where we were at, and they had two cats jump out of the helicopter. But this would happen later. The helicopter didn't come until, so we're swimming and we're trying to get out. And, I was this close. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. After around 30 minutes of being in that water, and this is after the Coast Guard on the beach, after they got there and they were trying to come out to us, after like 30 minutes, I was at that point where felt like giving up, because I had swallowed so much water. I was nauseous. I was tired. I had pains in my stomach from, just swimming in the water. And I was at that point where I just felt like just giving up. But I had one last push in me to try to get up out of this. And what I did was I started swimming, the way you're supposed to swim. And I actually started to make ground like that. And, Wendell, him being stuck out there, I felt bad for the dude because, the look on his face, he was panicking, and every time he got close to me, he would hold on to me, start hanging on to me. It's like he was going to drown me, and I had to actually push him off me, like, man, quit grabbing onto me, bro. And I understand though, he was panicking, he was drowning like I was about to. So, I start swimming towards the beach. I start swimming. I tell him, start swimming, swim like I'm swimming. And he tries, but, he's in serious panic mode. So I end up getting out of that little, that area that I was stuck in, and I actually started to get close towards the beach. And I got to a point to where I felt the ground under me, and from there on, I went straight to the beach. So I was the first one to come out of that. The other three were still stuck in there. And after 10 minutes, after another 10 minutes had elapsed, I'm talking to everybody on the beach. I'm like, man, it was, describing what happened. And after like 10 minutes, I told them, man, you know what? The dudes are gone. Because I was ready to give up. I was that close to giving up. And they're still out there. They've been out there like another 10, 15 minutes longer than I was. And I was like, you might as well just call it a day. You couldn't even see John and Tony. We didn't even know where they were at. The only one we could see was Wendell, because he was in that same area that I was. So then the helicopter comes, and that's when they must have spotted Tony, because the helicopter, you could see they had two dudes drop down into the water, and they actually got Tony and swam him to the beach. So there was a guy on a surfboard that was out there surfing, that I guess he found John, another resident. He was way out there, but he had drowned. He drowned in the water. And this guy that had the surfboard, I guess however, he maneuvered him onto the surfboard, but he got him, and he actually was able to get him to the beach. And once they got him to the beach, they did mouth to mouth on him and all that good stuff, and they brought him back. Now, Wendell was the last one to come in, the guy that was, that was with me, that was close to me. He was the last one to come in. The Coast Guards ended up swimming him back in, and he didn't drown, but he was almost to the point where he was going to give up, just like me. The water, I think what happened is we were out there in the water where that riptide, we were caught in it, and eventually it either moved, after being out there for so long, or it weakened or something, because we shouldn't have been able to make it out of it. Not a riptide like that. Not at that time, especially around 5 o'clock in the evening. It's bad. If you guys are familiar with San Francisco Beach, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, that situation right there, I mean, it was this close to taking my life. I respect Mother Nature. I honestly do, and I've respected the beach ever since that incident. I'm not scared to go and swim in the beach. I will, but I mind somebody now, because of that incident. It always crosses my mind whenever I go into any kind of water, whether it's a beach, whether it's the ocean, or even a lake. That incident always crosses my mind. It probably will for the rest of my life, because like I said, I came that close to dying. Don't play with Mother Nature, man. I'm telling you, Mother Nature is nothing to be played with. I've had homeboys that have drowned in the Russian River, at Clear Lake, out there in Lake Tahoe, in Ocean Beach, just out there swimming, barbecuing, and the next thing you know, they get caught in the current or something like that, and they're gone. Again, I know that you guys that are looking for a shoot 'em up, stab 'em up type of war story, you might be disappointed. And that's cool. This is something that happened when I was young, and I almost lost my life. It doesn't matter that it wasn't from another gang member. It was, through Mother Nature, but it's still something that happened. It's an experience that still lives with me to this day. And I'm sure some of you guys got similar stories, of almost drowning, or being in these type of situations. Anyways, for those of you guys that are looking for a shoot 'em up, stab 'em up type of war story, I'm sorry if I disappointed you. This is something that happened. It almost took my life. Even though it wasn't another gang member that almost did it, it was Mother Nature. It still happened. And for those of you that have been in similar situations like this, hey, these things live with you forever. You know, like I said, anytime I go swimming in any kind of lake, ocean, or anything like that, I always think about that. It's something that will always be in the back of my mind because I mind somebody now. I hope some of you enjoyed it. Anyways, I'm going to try to hit you guys with a war story or an inner demon tomorrow. With that said, I hope some of you enjoyed this episode 63. This your boy Beat, and I'm out.